Hello, I'm Dan, and this is Dan Explains. There are a few epic stories, actually, more than a few epic stories, in the Bible. Sagas that are the popular topics of movies. One of those epic stories is the Exodus. It's full of dramatic events, many of which are miracles. Today, I'd like to look at one in particular, the parting of the Red Sea. Some of the details of the story lend some credence to it for the people who are skeptical. Let me explain why. Now I'm going to talk about many of the events, but I'm not going to bother referencing each individual verse. The story is actually pretty short and can be found in Exodus 14 if you want to go and read it. I'm also going to reference the end of Exodus 13 from 13:17 to 22. The story of the parting of the Red Sea in the book of Exodus is probably one of the most physically dramatic miracles in the Bible. It's just as easy for God to work a big miracle as it is for him to work a little one, which I touched on in my 20th video on miracles. Link in the description. Many people, even Christians, seem to forget this. They try to minimize them and come up with scientific explanations. One of the most popular minimizations of miracles is that the Israelites didn't cross the Red Sea, that they crossed the Reed Sea instead. Proposing the Red Sea was a mistranslation or even an embellishment. The Reed Sea is a marsh north of the Red Sea in the Suez area where the Suez Canal is found today, where, as it sounds, contains lots of reeds. As you might be able to imagine, the water in this area must be pretty shallow, since all those reeds need ground to grow out of. So, from there they say that maybe if you had some strong wind, it may just be possible to expose a sandbar crossing the Reed Sea, and that's the actual story, because that's what's physically possible. I mean, sure, if you think the writers of Exodus just totally embellish the story, then you can stretch it or minimize it in any way you want. Okay, if you're an atheist, there's gotta be a reason the story is there, and maybe there's some true features of it, but God being the reason can never be the answer. If you're a Christian, why are you minimizing it? Yeah, as I pointed out in my 20th video that I mentioned earlier, God is normally discreet when performing miracles, since he doesn't usually need dramatic miracles to accomplish this, which would diminish our faith. Yes, you heard that correctly. I said dramatic miracles diminish, not grow, your faith. I talked about it in another video, but so you don't have to go and watch it, which you probably wouldn't want to anyway. It's my third video and it's pretty cringy. So I'll just give a short explanation. The more something is blatantly apparent, the less faith you need to believe in it. It becomes a matter of fact rather than a matter of faith. At that time, the Israelites were aware of God, but until Moses, they had no reason to ever have had faith in him. So, the story of Exodus is God building the foundation for the faith of the Jewish people. Even today, it's obvious the Jewish faith is built on the events during the Exodus. So yeah, God was being dramatic on purpose. In the story of the Exodus, from the end of chapter 13, it's pointed out that it would have been faster for the Israelites to simply go straight into the land of the Philistines. But they weren't ready for that yet, so God led them around to the shore of the Red Sea instead. And it's also pointed out that he did that specifically to create a situation for a dramatic rescue. He tells Moses this ahead of time. So yeah, the Reed Sea is pretty much out of the running then. Now it should be obvious that they certainly didn't go as far as the main body of the Red Sea, but crossed in the narrower and shallower Gulf of Suez, which is the narrow northern portion of the Red Sea. Otherwise, they would have been crossing into what's modern-day Saudi Arabia and not the Sinai Desert. Also, the story seems to imply they made the crossing in a single night. The main portion of the Red Sea is around 80 miles or about 100 kilometers across. They would not have been able to make that in an evening. Something that's not a critical point, but it's interesting nonetheless. Isn't it funny how it's always depicted in movies as happening during the day? I guess it's a little more dramatic that way, but God understands strategy well, I suppose. And hey, he waited until dawn before he drowned Pharaoh's army. One of the interesting things that's pointed out is the ground was too muddy, which slowed Pharaoh's army down. I think that the siltiness of the sea bottom, and in turn the muddiness of the crossing, is a little tidbit that lends some validity to the authenticity of the story itself. If the story was made up, that would have been something easily missed by an ancient writer, unless he was into collecting shellfish anyway. Something we all know that's just a bit frowned upon in Jewish customs. Then again, those restrictions were communicated later, I suppose. At any rate, one more thing that supports the event happening at the Red Sea and not the Reed Sea is the fact that Pharaoh's army is smashed by the infalling water. It would have to be at least a dozen feet deep for that to happen. Pharaoh's army could have waded through the Reed Sea on horseback in many places. Not exactly a place that's going to smash an army. If it happened in the Red Sea and not the Reed Sea, regardless of whether it was in the Gulf of Suez or further south across the main body of the Red Sea, there is no doubt God would have had to have worked a miracle, and quite a spectacular one at that. This is a subject for another video, but God was also helping guide and protect the Israelites' encampment as a pillar of fire, which is the only reason the Egyptians didn't descend on them right away. There is absolutely no reason for Christians, even Christians who are scientists, to be apologists for atheists. It doesn't do anyone any good to try and convince a skeptic that something happened by altering the story to make it more scientifically plausible. It's just going to make the skeptic wonder why you would bother believing in a God who doesn't actually do anything anyway. If you like this video, please press the like button. Subscribe to my channel and ding the bell to get notified when I post new videos. Also, please support me on Patreon, link in the description. The more people support me, the more time I can dedicate to making videos like this one. So, until next time, have a great week.